One.
Hello everyone, my name is Charles Falstrom and this is part of my Module 5 application. I'm going to be talking about the SAMR model and then going into some detail about how you can use the SAMR model to redesign a traditional lesson. So let's get started. What is SAMR? SAMR is a framework that breaks up technologies in the classroom into 4 different levels of integration, and those levels are substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition. And we're going to go ahead and spend a little bit of time kind of going over each of these levels in a little bit more detail. Substitution is the lowest level of the SAMR model. And in the substitution levels, technology is really just used as a direct substitute for basic tasks. So for example, that would mean having students use the internet to look up vocabulary definitions instead of using a dictionary, or filling out an electronic worksheet instead of using a hard copy. The next level is augmentation, and it's different in substitution in that you're adding increased functionality with the technology that would not have been possible otherwise. So an example of that, instead of having just a basic presentation with information, you could add some type of interactive media, such as a video. The next level is modification, and in this stage, technology is being used to significantly modify a task. Usually during this stage, the modification, you're giving students more opportunities to employ the 4 C's of technology, 21st century skills. They're having more opportunities to collaborate, to communicate, to be creative, and to critically think. So some examples of that could be cloud-based technology, so students using Google Docs to jointly create and collaborate together and construct their own knowledge. And the last stage is called redefinition, and at this level, technology is used to redefine a task in a way that cannot be replicated with traditional teaching methods. You're really empowering the students with technology at this stage. They're able to move beyond the barriers of their own classroom and have learning experiences that cannot happen conventionally. So for example, being able to collaborate with students in another part of the world. Why is SAMR important? Well, the whole upshot of this model is that it makes teachers more mindful and purposeful in how they're choosing to integrate technology in their classroom, and helps mitigate using technology for technology's sake. It should be noted that SAMR model is a spectrum. So depending on the task you have in mind, substitution or augmentation may be the better choice versus modification or redefinition. What's really important about the SAMR model is that teachers who use it, they're being mindful about their technology practices and they're looking to refine them. And they understand that technology has to be integrated effectively, and they're really asking themselves, how is this technology going to transform student learning? So instead of just using something in the classroom because it's available or because you heard about it, you're actually looking at ways that you're going to use it to really make a difference in student learning. So here's an example of how you could use SAMR at each of its 4 different levels. So the subject will be social studies, grade 5th grade, and the topic is the age of exploration. And the standard is students will explain the aims, obstacles, and accomplishments of the explorers, sponsors, and leaders of key European expeditions, and the reasons Europeans chose to explore and colonize the world. So moving on from a traditional direct instruction from the textbook to substitute my direct instruction where I'm really just talking and lecturing at the students, I could create a presentation using PowerPoint or Nearpod, and I could present it to the students' whole class as a live lesson. So instead of using the textbook, we're using my presentation as the means of them receiving information. To augment that, I could use some of the features that are built into Nearpod. You can add interactive polls, questions, and other types of engaging strategies to your slideshow. You can present it onto the students' screens and allow them to answer questions or engage with you throughout the presentation as you see fit. And so that would be one way to up the technology use level. And now students are becoming a little bit more involved. They have to pay more attention. And we might depending on what you use at this level, you could be using some of those 4Cs. You could be getting them to collaborate or communicate. But really, you're not going too deep here at these first two levels. Modification, in addition to what I've just done with modifying my Nearpod presentation, I could integrate additional resources into that presentation. I could have videos. I could add a VR field trip using Google Expeditions. It's really at this level where students are going to get more of those opportunities to practice those 4 Cs of 21st century skills. Being able to go on a field trip, allowing them to interact with one another, collaborate, communicate, being able to think about what they saw. That's really where you can really hit all of those things at once. The redefinition level, I would have students use Skype or some other digital platform to communicate with students from a different school, and they could exchange information that they've learned on about the topic, or possibly even collaborate together on some type of project. And you would definitely, at this level, if you did an activity like that, you would be hitting all 4Cs. Students would have to be creative. They would have to communicate. They'd have to collaborate. They would be collaborating with not only within their own classroom, but with another classroom. And they would have to critically think as they work together. So again, SAMR and the 4Cs, they go along pretty well. It's possible at some of those earlier levels of integration to touch on some of those 4Cs, but you're really shooting to get to that modification and redefinition stage. That's really where you're going to have the most opportunities to engage students in those 21st century skills. Here is my references page. The one graphic that I used in this presentation, I created it myself using a website called Canva. So thanks for watching.